Monday, my dudes and dudettes. It is May 18th, and the reason we're having this conversation today for anybody who is here is what happened on May 17th in New York, because the coincidence of another ship hitting another bridge is never lost on me. It was trains for the longest, then it was manufacturing, and then it was what is it, wherever eggs are held, made, whatever, and then chicken coops and stuff. And now again, we're back to bridges and ships. So yesterday in New York, I just want to go over a couple of things with you. I'm going to show you the video first. For those of you who have not seen it, let me show you this video. We don't need volume or anything like that, but this is the video. It's kind of hard to see. I understand there's the glare, but look at this ship. Okay. This is a Mexican Navy ship, and those are their masts. I think that's what you call it, the mast, right? And it is headed towards the Brooklyn Bridge. And here is where it hits the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, what you may not notice initially in this video is that there are men standing on those masts and the little things that go left to right on it, which again, I don't know the names of terms for these things. There are people standing on here, and this thing hits this bridge. There's tons of people standing around videoing it, looking at it, and I'll go over why in just a moment. But there are a ton of people on this thing. And so when this thing hits the bridge, when it hits the Brooklyn Bridge, which how many times in your life do you say when this boat hits the Brooklyn Bridge? When this happens, these men, maybe some women in there, I'm not sure, it's going to immediately affect them, obviously, because how are they going to hold on? They're going to fall. So far, they're saying that 2 people died during this collision here and 19 people are injured. My initial question, because I did not see this angle at first, I saw a different angle, was why would people die? I did not realize there were men and women standing on this thing when it hit. And you can, I mean, that video, you can see the people, which is okay. When you look up closely, that is extremely disturbing. And I'm sorry I showed that to you to begin with, because I did not realize how up close it gets on that last part. But at the end, when I first saw it, I didn't realize there were people on it, because my brain is going, who in their right mind would be standing on these things, right? Like, it never would have occurred to me that there would be just a ton of men on these masts, which is very hard for me to say. It sounds like I'm saying mast, but there is a T in there, M-A-S-T-S. It seems very weird to me that would be the case. So then I'm like, okay, what exactly is this, right? So that's the video. Let me pull up all the information here that I've got, because I had a lot of questions, right? I was like, what exactly is this ship? Why is Mexico flying a flag like crazy in New York at the Brooklyn Bridge? Already questions, right? Especially with everything that's been going on lately with the tensions, I guess might be the right word, between Mexico and the United States, Canada, the United States, all these other places in the United States, because of how they feel about President Trump and everything that he's doing, right? So I see this Navy ship with this massive Mexican flag. And of course, my first thought is this like a threat kind of thing? So then I start looking, and it's not, in theory, anything like that. This was a Mexican Navy ship that just 2 years ago was a training ship. It might still be a training ship, but they were going through, in 254 days, they were hitting all these different countries in these different ports to let people basically tour the Navy boat, which again, why the Mexican Navy is here, it's still weird to me. But this is the Mexican Navy ship. It's called the accent that I do not have, because I am white as white gets, is going to be very interesting here. But the Mexican Navy ship called the Cuauhtémoc. That's horribly wrong, and I apologize for those of you who know how to say it, because you have a little Latin flavor in your life. I have nothing here. I can go, but that's all I got. It was near the Brooklyn Bridge on May 17th, which was yesterday, as it was departing from New York's Pier 17 at the South Street Seaport, where it had docked. It was perfectly fine there. It had been there for public tours from the 13th to the 17th. So for the last 4 days, it's been docked at the South Street Seaport, so people could go in and take videos and walk around and look at it, which is why there were so many people around it as it was undocking, so it could leave and go to its next place, which I believe was Ireland, was the next place it was going. It had already gone to Havana, Cuba, and to Cozumel, Mexico, and someplace else, and it was on its way to Ireland next, right? It says here, the ship, a 3-masted bark used for training naval cadets, was on a global goodwill tour to promote peace and cultural exchange, with New York as one of its stops. It was en route to Iceland when it lost power due to a mechanical issue causing it to drift and collide with the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, the coincidence of this, we'll get to it in just a second, but if you've been here on Squirrel Tribe before, you were around when we talked about the Francis Scott Key Bridge and that coincidental collision that has resulted in just millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of bullshit going on, right? Either way, Freedom says, why was a Mexican ship doing on the East Coast trying to go on the Brooklyn Bridge? My son said there was no damage to the bridge, heading to Iceland to pick up a load of fentanyl and ladies of the night. Anything is possible. I don't really know if Iceland is a big ladies of the night location. Fentanyl, possibly. I feel like that's everywhere. But they did say there was no damage to the Brooklyn Bridge, thankfully. But let's continue on. Freedom, thank you for that. Let's continue on here because I got a little more information for you. It says here, the visit was coordinated by the South Street Seaport Museum and the Mexican Secretariat of Navy, and the ship was part of a 254-day journey visiting 22 ports across 15 nations, right? So I was curious how many stops it had it already been on. Like, if you're going to have power failure, coincidentally, okay, after you've been perfectly fine for 4 days, if you're going to have power failure, is this at the very last leg of their 254-day trek around the world on this Goodwill whatever, or is this at the very beginning and they didn't have all the kinks worked out? But this boat has been around for years. It's not like it's a new boat. It's not like it's something that hasn't been maintained and kept, because it is a naval training boat for Mexico. There are constantly men and women on it, right? So the Navy ship, it had already gone to, it began its Goodwill tour in Acapulco on April 6th. So it's only been April, May, a little over a month and a week, right, that it's been out doing this Goodwill tour. And they're supposed to, again, visit 22 ports, 15 countries. And according to this, it had already visited Kingston, Jamaica, Havana, Cuba, Cozumel, Mexico, and New York was stop number 4. And then it's supposed to go to Iceland. It's supposed to go to Bordeaux, St. Malo, Dunkirk, France, Aberdeen, Scotland, Kristiansand, Norway, Iceberg, Denmark, and then some other places in Spain, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and some other Caribbean destinations. It's supposed to go all these different places, right? So then I was kind of curious. I'm like, why are there men on this boat thing? Kelly C said, someone said it was stuck in reverse. If that was the case, it would not have been going forward. And that's what throws me off. So let's continue on here. So I asked why these men are standing on the sails. Maybe a lot of people understand. Maybe if you've been in the Navy, maybe if you're Mexican, I don't know, or any of these other things, you might know why they were standing on the mast, because to me that seems unsafe. Unsafe as all get out. Like, if the airplane is on the runway taking off and you have to put your seatbelt on, I feel like if the boat is underway, you probably shouldn't be standing on all of the masts. But pirates back in the day and whatever else back in the day, I guess that's how they did it, right? Somebody said it was going backwards. Maybe okay, so that part I missed. Winston, I missed that. If it was going backwards, I missed that part. It was hard for me to see. Maybe it's because I don't know what the front or the back is supposed to look like on a boat like that. Okay, so thank you guys for correcting me. I appreciate you immensely for that. So I asked why all these men are standing on it, right? Because I was curious. I was trying to figure out. And it says that it's part of a traditional naval ceremony. As the ship departed from Pier 17 at the South Street Seaport, naval cadets climbed the rigging and stood on the yard arms, which are the horizontal spars on the mast, right, to salute the host city and mark the occasion. This practice, known as manning the yards, I guess is a normal thing, right, is a customary display in tall ship traditions, symbolizing respect, discipline, and seamanship. It was performed to honor New York as part of the ship's Goodwill Tour, which aims again to promote cultural exchange and peace. The striking visual of sailors aloft in the sails was widely noted during the ship's departure on May 17th because of it hitting the bridge, right? And so then I Googled and DuckDuckGo'd and went to Grok and went to all these different places. I went to X trying to find videos of this naval ship at any of these other ports before New York, of having these men standing on the sails, right? I looked up Havana, Cuba, I looked up Kingston, Jamaica, and I looked up Cozumel, Mexico. And I couldn't find anything on social media until today, or yesterday technically, because of the collision. Normally the negative is what brings the attention, right? So I'm trying to look it up, and all I can find at first was a visual from 2022, 23, 1 of 2, 22 or 23 in Havana, Cuba, when the boat was leaving whatever port they were at. And even in that one, they were on the mast, because at first I was like, well, did they do this at every port they went to? Were they standing on these things at every single port, or do they just happen to be on them at this one? And since I can't find a visual representation so far, unless I've just missed it, which is highly possible, I can only like figure out so much for myself sometimes. I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. It would be interesting to me, because that's how my brain works, if they were on the mast at New York, but nowhere else, and New York just happens to be where they ended up losing power and crashing. But what's crazy is the similarities between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Francis Scott Key Bridge. If you guys remember, we talked about this when it happened. We went live at like 5 something in the morning, I think, right after it happened, because I believe it happened around 1 or 3 a.m. I can't remember exactly what time it had happened, but we went live immediately, like could not see out of my eyes, like I was dead ass asleep. But it was something that was happening it was huge, because the Francis Scott Key Bridge is a major bridge, right? And it has a ton of traffic going over it day and night, and especially for the trucking industry. In order for them to now get from point A to point B without having that bridge there's going to be all kinds of logistical nightmares, right? So I pulled up this video from when it happened of the cargo ship in and the Francis Scott Key Bridge, Baltimore. Again, it's going to be kind of hard to see because this did happen at night, but you can see there's no lights on this boat, right? Very, very few lights on this boat. And it looks like at the last second that it turns. It looks like it turns, and then it hits the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And the collapse from this bridge killed numerous people, massive issues, like all kinds of stuff. It's still closed for construction at this point in time, if I do remember correctly. It has not reopened yet. But the collapse of this bridge, they said, started because this boat lost power. Then they said that they had the tugboats that were pulling it, because where they were in the port, you're supposed to have tugboats. Same thing with the Mexican naval ship in by the Brooklyn Bridge. You have tugboats that are supposed to get you from point A to point B. And these tugboats just suddenly stopped doing their job and left, and there you go, and left this boat all by itself. And this boat just happened to lose power after the tugboats had left it, and as it got close to this bridge. Now they're saying that the Mexican Navy lost power, the tugboats had left it, and then it hits the bridge. And you can see the similarities that are way too coincidental for me. Again, I don't like saying I'm a conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, New York City is known for numerous things, but 3 of the biggest things they are known for: the Statue of Liberty, Times Square, Brooklyn Bridge. To me, those are things that when we visited New York, so my husband is from there, when he took me to visit, we took our daughter to visit, those are the things I wanted to see: the Brooklyn Bridge, the Statue of Liberty, and Times Square. And so for this Mexican Navy boat to lose power after the tugboats are done, as it's getting closer to this bridge, and for it to lose power and just happen to go towards an area where it would cause catastrophe, it feels too coincidental to me. And I don't like being that person, because I sound like Debbie Downer when I do this, but it doesn't sit right with me, right? And you're going to have plenty of people going, well, they lost power this, they lost power that. But did they really? And that's what bothers me. Did they really? Freedom says, SquirrelTribe, you're an awesome patriot. I respect you highly to save this great nation. I lost my screen. We love you. Retired 40 years oil fields. Man, you had a hard job working in oil fields. So thank you for that, because we need it, right? I don't want electric everything. That seems like a horrible way to live when the grid goes down and we're all just completely fucked. But seeing the video of the boat hitting the Brooklyn Bridge, literally my very first thought was, well, at least it didn't go the Francis Scott Key route with the whole collapse and everything else. But unfortunately, people did lose their lives. You're going to have some complete assholes out there going to be like, yeah, but they were Mexican, so, whatever. No, and a life lost is a life lost. Doesn't matter who it is. But my thought, the way I think is, if you're standing on these masts or whatever they're called, and you see that there's a bridge at about eye level, would you not start trying to climb down that bitch? Like, would you really just stand there and go, well, let's see what happens? No. I would be climbing. I would be squirreling my ass all the way back down. It would be a race to the bottom, because that's not how I would want to go out, is by ramming my face into the side of a bridge on a boat where I have no control of my life, right? But who is it? Murray says, go with your gut. My gut, sometimes something happens and I go, listen, unfortunately, it is what it is. That was mechanical failure. That was this, that was that. This one's hard for me to believe. Only for numerous reasons. One, because it's way too coincidental to the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore and what happened there. And two, because of the massive Mexican flag flying while also in New York. And there's been that whole massive issue with the illegal immigrants, with Eric Adams stopping the money to them. Eric Adams basically switching from Democrat to Republican, all these different things. Or was he always Republican? Acting like a Democrat? Y'all forgive me for not remembering who was what at that point in New York. I know Hochul's Democrat. I thought Eric Adams is Democrat, but acting more Republican and kind of switching sides towards the end because he didn't agree with what was going on with the Democrats and the illegal immigrant situation there. Right? Either way, New York has gotten a very, very bad rap over the last 2-3 years, not even the beginning of Biden's presidency, but like towards the end of it. It's gotten a massively bad rap because of numerous videos of people just walking around punching random people in the face, which I wish you would too, bitches. That's absolutely crazy to me. And then obviously all of the money that was going towards the illegal immigrants with the debit cards and the money and the hotel rooms and the hotel that the government was paying the hotel so the illegal immigrants could stay there. But then the hotel was owned by somebody in completely foreign country. So they were getting American taxpayer dollars to house illegal immigrants, which is the most effed up thing ever. But anyway, but when watching the naval ship hit the Brooklyn Bridge, it gives you stuff like that always makes me think back to like 9/11, okay, because of what happened there and because of how many people are on the fence of it happened the way they say it happened and it was an inside job. So it's an interesting kind of thing. So when these things happen, like the Francis Scott Key Bridge, this thing, which thankfully the Brooklyn Bridge did not collapse, because can you imagine? But my brain goes, well, what if that was the plan? What if it was supposed to? Because can you imagine how that would just like, I mean, it would like shut so much down for the cities and everything else around it, right? Anyway, I see these kind of things and it makes you feel a certain type of way when something happens within your own country by people or things that are not of this country. So like the boat that hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge, it was a boat that was, I want to say, owned by India, owned by a completely different country that was going back to its country to pick up something or drop something off. I cannot remember which way it was going because it has been a while. But either way, when these things happen, and it's not of our own country's men's doing, it elicits a certain type of feeling for a lot of people, right? And I don't even know how to phrase that without it sounding some type of way, but I guess it's just going to sound how it sounds. But it makes you kind of re-up your patriotic feelings. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, it makes sense. Because right now, like if there had been any damage to the Brooklyn Bridge, or there had been any injuries to anybody from New York or whatever else, I feel like there would be a lot more anger about this whole thing going on, right? Because then it would be our citizens that had been affected. I think it's awful that these men that were on the Mexican Navy ship lost their lives. 2 of them in 19, they said, are injured or in critical condition. That's horrific no matter what, no matter who loses a life. It's absolutely horrible. But I feel like it doesn't affect people the same as if they had said there were 2 American men or women on the Brooklyn Bridge that were killed by the mast of the boat. That would change how I think a lot of people see things and feel about things, right? So that was it. I saw that happened, and the similarities to the Francis Scott Key Bridge were crazy to me. And until they can prove any sort of mechanical failure, what do you do, right? Like, you just have to believe them at their word and go along with it. But we've also learned not to really believe them at their words. So that's that for that. I did have something else I wanted to mention to you guys that I thought was interesting. Remember yesterday we talked about, yesterday and the day before, we talked about Walmart and the CEO, and then how Donald Trump came out and he was like, hey, Walmart, get your head out your ass and quit trying to make all the profits under the sun and everything else, basically everything I've been saying. Well, then today, this person, Callahan Auto, is severing their ties with Walmart, because here's what I don't know what Callahan Auto is. Maybe a lot of y'all might know, but I'm not 100% sure who Callahan Auto is. But what they had to say was interesting. They said, it's come to my attention they raised prices on Callan brake pads in the name of tariffs, even though we manufacture and source 100% in the USA, which is why I'm telling you guys about this. So Callahan Auto, they do everything here in the United States of America. They source everything here. They make everything here. It's manufactured here. It's shipped from in here to wherever they go. And Walmart raised their prices on these Callan brake pads and said it was because of the tariffs. But these things aren't tariffed because they are here in the United States of America. So when I see that, it makes me go, we've talked about it already, how you're going to have a lot of these companies who are going to blame their price increases on tariffs when there is no proof that there were tariffs to make their prices go up. So Hallmark, my husband and I talked about this on a channel we have together. We talked about the fact that Hallmark said that they had to raise their prices because of the tariffs, but a lot of their stuffs are made here in, I want to say Kansas. Was it Kansas or Kentucky or Arkansas? It's something in there, right? One of those three in there. Everything is, maybe it was Virginia. I don't even friggin' know what state it was. But either way, they manufacture things here in the US, but they were saying that they have to raise all their prices across the board because of tariffs. And it's like, well, no, you don't. If you're going to tariff everything, that's called price gouging. If you're only going to add prices or raise your prices on everything and blame it on tariffs, that's price gouging. If you're going to raise it on the things that are actually imported and you are paying extra tariffs on, that makes sense. But to do it across the board, that's bad business, and that's price gouging, and that's going to make you lose customers more than anything else. I can understand if you need to raise a price on this one or two products, but if you leave the rest of them where they're supposed to be, I will still visit your location and make the purchases I need to make. Sometimes that might be something that's higher cost, sometimes it might not. But if you go through and you raise everything up, no, now you're just screwing the people over so you can keep padding your profits, so you can go remodel more stores, go open more stores in Mexico, go do all this and that, order more things. It doesn't help us. So I have no interest in helping you by continuing to spend my money in your location, whatever location that may be. And right now it just happens to be Walmart, right? So that was that. Really, that was it. I just want to tell you guys about the boat and everything that happened in case you hadn't seen it, and then mention to you what was going on, the latest with the whole Walmart thing with the tariffs and the price raises, because I feel like you're going to see even more made in America companies who want to sell their products, but because of stores like Walmart who are giving that product now a bad name because they're raising the prices on it, you're going to see more American companies pulling out of places like Walmart. And you're only going to be able to find them either through their own online marketing, their own stores online, or through maybe some smaller mom and pop locations, or through like these brake pads, maybe only through places that work on the vehicles, right? So if you're looking for something made in America, I'm going to say your best bet, first off, is to look up if they have an online presence. And I know this is that double-edged sword thing. You don't want to have to rely on online presence in order to make a purchase. But if it helps a company here in the United States that is manufactured in America, made in America, sold in America, shipped in America, it's worth doing things a little bit differently outside of your normal shopping routine or your comfort zone in order to help keep them in business. Because I would much rather spend my money here within our borders for our country, our companies in our country, than overseas anywhere. So that's just me. It's not always feasible. I understand that, but do what you got to do. So Y'all, Squirrel Tribe, I love you. Short live stream. Thanks for hanging out with me on this Sunday afternoon. I will see you guys again a little bit later with some more information on some other things. I appreciate you immensely. Freedom. Have a great day. And I love you guys. Bye.